Well, hey everybody, we're back on the blog this week, and I'm happy to introduce you today to Janet Morris Grimes. Hi, Janet.
Hello. Hey, everybody.
Good to have you here.
I'm thrilled. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, good. I just want to jump in and hand it over to you and let you introduce yourself and tell a little bit about yourself and your family.
Awesome. Well, I've been writing. I actually published a nonfiction book about 11 years ago. It was a write for hire book, how a parent's guide to uncluttering your home. Kind of funny because my home is kind of cluttered right now. So it's something that didn't come naturally to me. And I just learned how to follow guidelines and get an editor and all of that. Um, so it was a good experience, but not where I wanted to spend my time, obviously. So the next 10 years I spent working on novels. I quickly switched to fiction, and probably they say on average your fifth novel gets published, and probably this is my fourth one that finally got
Okay.
published last August. So I had presented an idea at a writers conference to an agent and got a strong enough response on this book to make me push all the other ones aside. I was a little scattered and misdirected. It had a hard time deciding where to focus. So after that, I spent all my time working on Solomon's Porch, which was released last August through Elk Lake Publishing. And so we're 6 months into this journey, and I'm learning so much.
Uh-huh.
But it's all been, I've learned a lot the hard way, but it's been fantastic.
Great, great. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about the genre that you write in and what led you to that.
Well, the funny thing is, that was as scattered as I was with my writing. I could have four projects going on at once. I also did that with my genre. I never saw it clearly. I just wanted to tell a good story, and I would consider it maybe Southern fiction, contemporary. It wasn't technically a romance. If there's romance to it, it happens later in the book, much later, and it's normally romance is right there at the
Mm.
front on page one almost. So it ended up being classified as a mystery, and I think because it's a story full of tension, and you have to read all the way through it, but there's something always making you turn those pages. So it's mystery suspense because you are trying to solve a few things as you go through it. The premise is there's an older man who lives in this forgotten town, and he's not getting the care he needs. He's got dementia. He wanders out into the road and is hit by a car, and no one knows who he is. So he's in the hospital as a John Doe, and it picks up from there and trying to decide who he is and how to reach his family. And it moves pretty quickly. The whole book happens in about a week's time. So
Wow.
it's a page turner.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Well, thanks.
Tell me a little bit about how you incorporate Christ into your books and how you share hope with readers.
I think I think the secret, or what I try to do, is not be preachy, not be head on. Jesus told stories all the time, but then he didn't stay and say, well, let me tell you the 3 points I was trying to prove to you by telling you that story. He just let the story speak for itself and let his listeners carry that with them. And it would mean different things to different people. And I have found that with Solomon's Porch. It's a touching book. Everyone describes it as very emotional.
Hmm.
But if you're going to be that emotional, if you're going to try to share so many stories, then you're going to touch someone in their heart, and they're going to carry it very differently than someone else. So the message of Christ is sometimes revealed through a character who just chooses to do the right thing when nobody's watching, and that's really what Solomon does. um, I'm not sure, actually I'm quite sure he doesn't mention Christ one time in the book, but you're going to find him all through there.
Hmm.
So
So, is this story and/or any of the other stories you've written inspired by any true events or personal history?
I would say my main character in Solomon is patterned after my father-in-law. We lost him almost 10 years ago,
I'm
and
sorry.
he was a very kind man, and he died in his sleep very unexpectedly. So at the visitation, we were supposed to have, I don't know, 6 hours of visitation. It turned into about 10 hours because the lines were so long,
Wow.
and we were comforting people as they were comforting us because everyone was in such shock. And then they just started telling stories of things he had done. They met me at the hospital the morning I had surgery, and he was there at 5:30, just one thing after another, little things that nobody else knew about, but then they would tell what a difference that made, and so it just made me really pay more attention to what kind of difference one man could make. So nothing in the story is patterned after anything that he did directly, but the idea and the premise are all very much there. And I know it can be done because I watched it in action for so many years. So
Exactly. That's
yeah,
awesome. And that's
yeah.
what a great tribute to your father-in-law, too.
Yeah, yeah. I think the people who know him, and let me tell you this, the funny thing is he wore Solomon. I don't know if you've got a cover, I could grab one real quick, but Rhonda Dragomir did my cover, and she used a profile picture of my husband, and he wears this newsboy hat. Solomon does. It's an older, what you see older men wear, and my father-in-law always wore one. But I'd asked my husband to just dress up like Solomon. I need to get a feel for this. I'm like, go sit on the porch. I need to take some pictures. And that's where I got this. I took this picture, and Rhonda was able to do it beautifully. So it's my cover, and I'll always be excited when I see that cover for that
Yeah.
reason. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, where did the title Solomon's Porch, did you come up with that or?
No, it's in the Bible. And it's funny because now I realize that people assume it's biblical fiction, but
Mm,
it's mentioned that Jesus walked there, that Peter healed a man there.
mhm,
My research shows it was a huge portico. It's called Solomon's Portico or Colonnade, probably the size of a football field, if not larger, on the sides of the temple. On the side of the temple there in Jerusalem, but it became a place to gather where people would just come to town and sit, get water, cool
mhm.
off, and I just when I saw the title, I was reading my Bible and underlined it this in 2016, and I wrote book title question mark and kind of left it at that, and then it just brewed from there. But so I
That's
had my
so
title long
cool.
before. I have my title long before I have my character, and then you just start asking questions. I would see this old man and then be like, well, why is he not? Why is he in trouble? Why is he not getting the care he needs? And the whole town developed around him. So yeah, I just wanted to create that same kind of place, only
Yeah.
in a modern form.
I love that. That's so cool.
Well, thanks.
So tell us a little bit about the setting of the novel. Is it a real place, a fictitious place, somewhere you visited?
It is a town called Ginger Ridge. You see my son? Oh,
Okay, Ginger
there we
Ridge.
go. Ginger Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
We've all got a story to share. Um, and that's fictitious, except there's a little truth on every corner. I think there's a church in town the whole town's falling apart. It's a military town, and the military base was shut down, so everybody left, and that's why Solomon's not getting the care he needs. It's also why the church is pretty empty. Huge building, there to take care of people and for people, and at one time the hub of the whole town, and now nobody's there. So I had seen that before. We'd been on a mission trip, and it was a small town like that with a big church building, but nobody to serve. And so that stuck in my mind. Different, Main Street boarded up with nothing but graffiti and busted up windows. You could tell used to be a quaint town, a place you would want to be, but not anymore. And so everyone, community needs help, and the town does. Solomon did. So it's kind of interesting to see how that all comes into play.
Mm-hmm. So did God teach you anything writing this book?
He taught me to finish what I start. He taught me not to quit because I really was at a breaking point right before, not before I wrote it, before I didn't throw it out the window. I had tried to present it a couple places and gotten rejected, and spent 2 years on it. But I really believed in the story, and I wanted to make sure I was fair to the characters and shared all their stories, the way that they deserve to be shared. So more than anything, I will say COVID made me stay home and
Mm-hmm.
finish. Now I've got to come up with that self-discipline, and it's much
Yeah.
harder if you are having to tell people, no, I can't come to that because I've got to write tonight. So he's
Yes.
taught me, if I'm going to be a writer, which I want to be, we've started down this journey, but I've not sat down to write much since the book came out. So I've got to figure that out, how to market,
Yes.
um, how to do both and finish what you start. Cause
Yeah.
that's really, I've got boxes of unfinished projects, and that's not going to impress anybody or touch anyone's heart for God. So
Yeah. So do you have a job outside the home aside from writing or
I do. I'm
okay.
an administrative assistant at the community college down the
Oh,
road.
okay. So,
Yeah, I love it there. I'm thankful that I'm there. It's a perfect fit, but more reason I've got to be disciplined. I'm an empty
yes.
nester, so I should be able to do this, but much easier than the people who have, six
Oh,
kids at
oh,
home
I
and
know. I
everything.
can't. I don't know how they do it. I
I
don't.
don't either.
I really don't. So, what are you hoping that readers are going to take away from Solomon's Porch? When they close that book, what do you want them to say, wow, that was,
I think, well, it's happening. So before it was released, I had a team, a launch team, not really a launch team, but more beta readers, a big group of people, 40 or so, to help read through it and tell me when I still had time to change some things, to make sure the medical issues were accurate, to make sure, nothing stopped them in their tracks. And as I was getting texts from them on, I'm on page 20 and I've got a question, or it was so neat to go through that story together, but also the different messages that they would get from it.
mm,
So there's forgiveness and community, how to let people into your own. I mean, the story opens with a bunch of people trying to solve their own problems, or their personalities have adjusted enough to where they don't even notice their own problems anymore,
mm,
because we just overcompensate and we try to do that on our own. And if you just let somebody into what you're trying to accomplish, it can make a huge difference, and that begins to happen and has a snowball effect through the whole story.
mm,
So I'm happy with people connecting or being sad that it's over, saying they want to go spend time on Solomon's Porch. I got a text
mm.
today from a girl who'd given it to her 82-year-old father, and he said, "Oh, I need to know what happens next." And so, and that's precious.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the fact that it's got some sadness, because we all have our own story and there's sadness in our stories.
Yeah.
But in order for us to be okay, you've got to work through the sadness, and that's what Solomon has to do, and really everybody else in the story as well.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I just hope
So,
they find forgiveness and redemption and know that they can make a difference. That's
mhm.
the biggest message. You can make a difference.
Yeah, that's a great message. Uh,
Thanks.
so, what was the hardest scene in the book for you to write?
The hardest scene, honestly, was the last scene. I've always knew how it was going to end, but I see it like a movie scene. I see it with music. There's a theme of Elvis music throughout this book, and that's one of the girls in the story was an Elvis fan, and so it just keeps coming up that somebody will hear a song and it will remind of when they were on Solomon's Porch or whatever. So but so I saw this scene when this social worker who'd been trying to help Solomon, they're together, and it's ending, and she's singing him this song that used to mean something, and and then they told me when I was writing it that I couldn't use lyrics.
Right.
Like, oh, that's everything. I
I know.
I have to. So it's different if you have to describe them humming a song, or because I see it so clearly. So because I would just sob when I would write those
Yeah.
last scenes, but I feel like it lost a little bit in that.
Mhm.
But it also makes me just want to make sure somehow it becomes a movie, and I have no idea how to do that. But it deserves
God
to be
can
a
make that
movie.
happen.
That's right. Just for the last scene alone, it needs to be a movie because people need to hear this song.
Oh. So my mother-in-law was a huge Elvis fan,
Okay.
so she would love that. Well, she's
Yeah.
gone. She's gone on now, but Elvis was big back for my parents and my husband's parents.
Right.
So I grew up listening to Elvis and loving Elvis too because of them. So
Right. Well, and it's really more of a soundtrack of your life. So if you hear something, you're right back there, of when you used to hear it, where you used to hear it, how it
yeah.
used to smell. And that's
Hmm.
kind of how it's used in this book.
Hmm.
but not very well because I couldn't use lyrics.
Yeah.
So it's
Right.
just in the backdrop a little bit.
So, do you have a favorite quote from the book?
You Solomon is a wise, just like Solomon in the Bible. But he talks about how the only thing you can do with the past is use it to make the future better. Um,
Mm,
he talks about how God used, must have known we need each other because we all need a family. He quotes that. It just he tends to say just the right thing at just the right time. So there's a lot of Solomon quotes I could pull from that.
mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's not even saying anything; it's just being there.
Yeah.
He's great at that too.
Well,
I
I
miss
have,
him.
yeah, I have a quote in front of me from your book, and
Okay.
I'm going to read it. It says,
Okay.
My Winnie used to say we were meant for each other. Maybe you and I are meant for each other as well. After all, we both need a family now, right?"
That's exactly right. That's a pretty powerful point of the book.
Yeah. So that's a pretty awesome quote there too.
Yeah.
So, what about readers? Has anyone ever just really blessed your socks off?
You know, yes, just by sharing, and that's something I'm learning because I'm so new at this. Um, I hate to say it, but I guess they tell you to develop thick skin, but you also are holding your breath. If you know someone's reading your book, you're
Yeah.
like, okay, what page are you on? And not that you have to report back, but if someone takes the time to let you know through a review or even just mentioning, or that like that girl that said I gave it to my 82-year-old father and he loved it. Um, that's the best thing you can do. That means that
Absolutely.
it's like we're all unified and have been through the same experience. And I
Yeah.
just I love talking about it. I love seeing
Mhm.
how one girl said, I could never read books during high school. My teachers were so frustrated with me, but I couldn't put this one down. I think that's probably the biggest compliment. I couldn't put it down.
Mhm.
I needed to. There were people needing things, but I didn't want to stop. And I
Right.
think that's huge because I'm not sure when it's your debut novel, people don't know what to expect, and
Right.
you've probably got friends who would say, sure, I'll read your book, but they don't know they don't know if they're going to like it,
Mhm.
and they're reading it because you're their friend, not
Right.
because
Yeah.
so that's to me the best compliment, because they don't have to say that,
Mhm.
and they probably would say they liked it, whether it took them 4 weeks to read it or 4 hours. So
Mhm.
um
Yeah, and I mean, I'll add my amen to that. So those who are watching this, that's a way that you can bless authors by just reaching out with a message, an email or something, just to let them know what you loved about the book, how much you appreciated it, how it touched you. I just got a text yesterday from a friend. I didn't even know she was reading my little novelette that I put out there as a lead magnet kind of giveaway thing,
right.
and saying some of those same things like, "Oh my gosh, I love this. I can't put it down. It's so
Mhm.
amazing. I can't wait to read the novel." And people have no idea
No.
what that means. That,
Well,
because you could be sitting there at that moment thinking, "Why am I doing this? I need to just hang this up. I'm no
right.
good. I can't do this." And that one encouraging word could be enough to keep you going.
Well, and it's such a lonely job, and you write, not like I didn't lock myself in the basement for 2 years, but for hours and hours and hours throughout that, I would pick it up and put it down and pick it up and put it down. And there to find the continuity and make sure it's going in the same direction. And then to know that someone would take the time to sit in that town with me and go, wow, I don't want
Yeah.
to leave here,
Yeah.
that is amazing,
Hmm.
because I could have done all that and it not worked.
Right.
I mean, they didn't feel that way or they didn't connect.
Yeah.
The fact that they're begging for more, the fact that I feel like it's healing. I can't, yeah, I'm all with any kind of review you can give. If it's Barnes and Noble, Amazon, even making a post on Facebook that could be shared. Um, Word of mouth is better than
Oh yeah.
anything else.
Absolutely.
And, and we get tired of talking about it
Yeah.
because, and probably people don't want to hear us talk about it all the time.
Hmm.
So therefore if
It's important for
it's
them to talk about it.
right. It's a marathon. You have to think of launching a book. I'm 6 months out, and I didn't want it to peak for a month or two and then stop. I want it to keep building. I want
Mhm.
the you know, for an example, if 500 people have read it, I would love for them to tell a friend. And if that can become 1,000, and that's going to happen slowly for a debut author that no one's heard of. So you know, I read something the other day about a girl who's, I think it's Rachel Hawk. Yeah, she said, you know, 4 years after her book was published, it ended up on the front page of Amazon and became a bestseller. And she's not sure why, what brought that, but it had been building all that time. And so it's a God thing, but it also requires readers to share the story.
Yep. All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up now. And as we close out, could you just give us a little snippet of what's coming next from you?
Yeah, I've got, it's funny, again, picking my projects here. I've got a series of kids' books that's coming out, also through Elk Lake Publishing. The first one's called Do Your Best Tess. It's a rhyming book. They all are. It's on A Character is a Choice is the series. And it started 25 years ago in our kids' worship. And just kind of participation, you know, you present these opportunities and the child has an opportunity to make a choice, and the kids are going, you know, do your best, Tess. And I feel like there's so many rules when I've got 4 grandkids now, so it's time for me to get these out. They've been in my head forever, but there's so many rules when you're a child, so many things to remember. And so I just thought, well, it doesn't mean it can't be fun. So I'm excited about this. My first one should be out in April, if not maybe May, but I've got to switch gears and figure out how to market children's books. There should be 6 in that series, and I need to sit down and write the rest of them. After that, I think Solomon definitely needs a sequel. I've got a romance that's mostly finished. I need to tweak it a bit, but I've got to find the balance of marketing and writing, and still working, obviously, but COVID did all that for me. It made me stay home and not feel guilty. So now I've got to do that on my own. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure actually getting to meet you. I know we're friends online and see you on social media, but to actually get to meet you and chat with you has been fun. So thanks so much.
Well, thank you. You do so much for people. Thank you, Dina. I appreciate it.
All right. Blessings to you.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.